Hello, I'm Tanya Plibersek, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and I pledge to shine a light on domestic violence.
Tanya Plibersek, shining a light on domestic violence is something that you've championed for a long time, both in your career as a federal politician, but also dating back to your university days. How did you come to be involved in this issue?
I suppose I first got involved in violence against women issues at university as a student when I was the Women's Officer at the University of Technology. I job shared that position with a friend of mine, and one of the main things we did was try and increase safety on campus by making sure that there were minibuses for some of the more isolated campuses and so on. It just always struck me as impossibly unfair that someone just going about their daily life, going to classes at university, should feel afraid or even worse, be assaulted on campus. I've always, I suppose, been interested in issues of fairness, and I think one of the greatest issues of unfairness in our country today is the fact that 1 in 5 Australian women can expect to be sexually assaulted in their lifetime, and 1 in 3 Australian women will experience domestic violence. It's a huge issue in our community and causes untold physical and emotional distress. In fact, we estimate that the financial cost is about $13.5 billion a year at the moment and growing. But add to that the sadness, the difficulty, the emotional pain that goes with it, and you see what a huge problem it is for our community.
And are we seeing advancements in this space? Because we know that the statistics have changed very little. We're still seeing 1 Australian woman die every week and 1 hospitalised every 3 hours because of domestic violence. It's easy to conclude on these stats alone that our elected representatives are failing Australian women in this respect.
I think our culture still has a long way to go, and it's the responsibility of all of us to help make that cultural change a reality. I do think that things have changed. I guess one of the things that's changed most is reporting rates when it comes to domestic violence and sexual assault as well. And I think sometimes that gives the false impression that these crimes are actually on the increase, when in fact what the increased reporting figures show is a greater confidence from women that if they come forward and make a complaint, that complaint will be taken seriously. We know from historical accounts that domestic violence and sexual assault have been with us for not just hundreds of years but thousands of years, and I think probably any period of history that you'd look at, you would find accounts of domestic violence and sexual assault. What has changed is that it's now illegal, and we are working constantly on public opinion to make it clear that this isn't, it's not just a crime. You'll be prosecuted if you're caught abusing someone, but that it's on top of being a crime, it's also socially unacceptable. So, domestic violence has been a crime for depending on the way you look at it, dozens of years or hundreds of years. But social attitudes, the idea that you could give your wife a slap or a push and that wasn't a big deal and the police shouldn't be involved in that, that has really been in most recent decades that we've seen the bigger changes in that area.
Why is it, do you think, that there is such public outrage in response to street violence, as we saw in New South Wales recently with the One Punch campaign and the New South Wales government's almost immediate legislative crackdown, yet there doesn't seem to be this same urgency for action when it comes to domestic violence?
I think the reason that we saw this community interest in the One Punch sort of accidents recently was the randomness of them. And I think, it is shocking to think that, anyone can be walking along the street and get a punch to the head and end up in hospital or dead. It is a shocking thing to think that. I guess what we need to continually remind ourselves is that home is where we expect to be safest, and yet for many, many Australian women, they can't feel safe there, they don't feel safe there, and they're not safe there. And as a community, we need to make sure every day that we continue to work to make our homes and our streets safe for all of our women and all of our men.
Okay, if I can just move on to policy. In the ALP leadership campaign last year, Bill Shorten pledged to make domestic violence a national issue should he be elected leader. It was unusual because it was the first time we'd seen a male politician pledge to give this issue national attention outside of designated days like International Women's Day and White Ribbon Day. Yet he's been ALP leader for 6 months now and we've seen very little of him in this space. Is he still committed to this issue and is the Labor Party still committed?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And can I say, you mentioned White Ribbon Day, and it's really good that you have, because you asked, have attitudes changed in recent years? And I'd say that the White Ribbon campaign is a great example of just how mainstream the issue of violence against women has become. And to see those White Ribbon ambassadors standing up and saying, I will not commit, condone or ignore violence against women, and saying it every year is phenomenally important. We've got terrific people like Adam Spencer's always been involved, Hazem El Masri's involved, but Kevin Rudd as Prime Minister was very involved in the White Ribbon campaign, and it really, during the time that we were in government, we contributed funding to White Ribbon, but the growth of that movement was very important, and I think it's important not to diminish how important it is for men to say to other men, I will not commit, condone or ignore violence against women. Bill Shorten, of course, has also been a supporter of White Ribbon Day, and we've spoken at great length about the fact that we have a national plan for violence against women that goes to 2022. It covers both federal and state government efforts, and we don't need to go back and redesign the wheel. What we have to do is continue to put all of our effort in the right direction to reducing violence against women. And what concerns me about plans for the future, for example, is one of the most important things we can do is make sure that women have a safe place to go. The National Partnership on Homelessness runs out on the 30th of June this year. It's been so vital to providing places for women and their children to go if they're escaping domestic violence, those homelessness services. No funding after 30th of June. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we do need to continue to fund the things that are working.
Just going back to the ALP leadership campaign last year, Bill Shorten flagged that uniform national laws around domestic violence was something that was needed. Is this something that we can expect to see the Labor Party put before Parliament this year?
Well, certainly it's something that we are investigating. The most important things when it comes to national legislation is the interoperability of things like apprehended violence orders. In the past, we've sometimes had problems where a woman has been granted an AVO in one state and has fled to another state and has had to go right through the same process again. Again, coming out of the national plan, we started to address those issues of interjurisdictional operation of apprehended violence orders and other legal protections like that. That's an area that we need to continue to build on as well.
So how will the Labor Party deliver on its commitment to keep domestic violence on the national agenda?
Well, you'll continue to see us raising issues of violence against women and homelessness, investment in social housing, because like I said, if you don't have a safe place to go, then women don't leave relationships, and continuing to work with the states and territories as well. But I think the question is, what will you see from the government? And we need to have a commitment right now from Tony Abbott that the investment in the National Partnership on Homelessness will continue, and that investment in social housing will continue, and that the programs like the 1800 Respect line and the Respectful Relationships program for teenagers and young people, that investment will continue as well. It would be terrific if we were still the government. Unfortunately, we're not. So the pressure that we need to bring to bear is onto the government to make sure that the fantastic start we made with the National Plan on Violence Against Women with their children continues and grows.
And finally, Prime Minister Tony Abbott is a feminist, but it seems that his Minister for Women, Senator Michaelia Cash, is not. Does the feminist label matter, or is it the issues that count?
Look, I guess if Tony Abbott's a feminist, then there's a pretty wide definition of that word. I'm very happy and I'm very proud to call myself a feminist. I'm a mother of a daughter and I'm a mother of 2 sons. And one of the things that I look forward to in the future for all of my children, for the 3 of them, is that they won't be bound by gender stereotypes, that they will pursue their dreams, irrespective of what anyone might think is the proper thing for a girl or a boy to be interested in. I hope my daughter will always be safe from sexual assault or domestic violence. But I hope my sons will be safe too. You were mentioning the one-punch stuff earlier, the random violence that young men are often subjected to. To do this, we need a community that is focused on equality, that's focused on not rigidly defining people according to their gender, and that says in every instance violence is the wrong way to approach interpersonal relationships.
Okay, Tanya Plibersek, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.